Because why would you tell us 2 months ago that you don't know nothing, and then you out here at the damn corner store nonetheless talking about some you know everything? Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Janae, if you didn't know, and today's video is another true crime episode. So if you're ready, let's go. All right, y'all. So here are my nails for the week. Disregard the little thumb over here. I'll be working hard. Okay. So these are super cute, super simple. And here go a picture of the nail design that I recreated. So yeah, y'all let me know how I did in the comments. I think I did a pretty good job. I mixed up the colors a little bit because I didn't want to do, I forget what color is that. Is it orange or is it yellow? I don't remember. But I wanted to do these colors. I feel like I look good in this blue. But anyways, today's case is one of those cases where it's probably going to piss you off. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and hop into today's case. And today we are in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where on May 30th, 1989, baby Audrey Mae Scott II was born, aka Tutu, to her friends and family. Now, I don't know who she was named after, but I really do think it's pretty cool that she is a second. So Audrey grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin with her mom, Carrie, and her stepdad Rico in the home with her. But I do believe that her biological dad was very much so involved in her life. And Audrey was one of 4 or 5 kids, and I think that she fell in the middle there somewhere. And growing up, it's said that Audrey was a very good kid who did well in school. And she was very kind-hearted and caring and always willing to help somebody out. Her stepdad even said that there was times where he and his wife would come home and Audrey would have brought somebody to the house so that she could feed them because they said they was hungry. So it was always in Audrey's nature to just care for other people. And at 14 years old, that caring nature would be accompanied by a maternal instinct, because this is when Audrey would have her first child. Now, granted, Carrie wasn't the most excited about Audrey being pregnant at 14 years old, but she understood that kids make mistakes, even the good kids. And while this wasn't the ideal situation, she supported her daughter 100% throughout her pregnancy and after the baby was born. But don't get it twisted, because even though Carrie supported Audrey, Audrey was 100% responsible for her child. There would be no leaving her at the house on the weekends to go hang out with her little friends. She was even the one to set up daycare services so that her daughter could be there while she was in school. Now, her parents obviously stepped in when necessary and did help Audrey out. But like I said, for the most part, Audrey, although a child herself, was fully responsible for taking care of her daughter. And after school, Audrey would go pick up her baby from daycare, go home, do her homework, all while taking care of her child, because having a baby young did not equate to not going to school for Audrey. I don't know if that was a rule her mama set. I don't know if that was a standard that Audrey set for herself. But whatever the case was, Audrey was not going to let having a baby young deter her from graduating high school. And if I'm not mistaken, she attended and graduated from North Division High School. And after she graduated, she went on to become a CNA, which was right on par with her, that caring part of her personality. And even though Audrey was extremely happy with the work that she did as a CNA, she definitely wanted to do more with her life. And one of the goals that Audrey had set for herself was to one day open up a group home so that she could work with adolescent girls, because she wanted them to know that even if they felt like they had nobody else in their lives to talk to, they had her and they will always have her. They could always come to her for anything. And the fact that she was a mother at such a young age and just going through the woes as a teenager, she felt like she could be more relatable to them in a less judgmental way. Now, fast forward to Mother's Day 2016. Audrey is now a mother of 2, and she just chilling, minding her own business on Facebook when she notices that she received a Facebook message from an old high school classmate named Sammy Miller, and he was simply just wishing her a happy Mother's Day. Now, I don't know the subsequent messages that followed that initial happy Mother's Day message, but the two of them would end up forming a relationship. And just a few months into the relationship, Audrey and her girls moved in with him. And from the outside looking in, everything seemed all good. However, in the spring of 2017, Audrey decided that she didn't want to be in a relationship with Sammy no more. And she asked her parents, could she come back home? She was done with him. She just needed to get away and she needed to move her and her kids out of the house. And of course, her parents welcomed her back into their home with open arms, her and her girls. And it was only then that they learned that Audrey had been hiding the fact that Sammy had been abusive towards her. And she felt bad for hiding this from her family, but like a lot of people in this situation or in these types of situations, she more than likely hid it out of embarrassment, shame, and potential guilt of like, how did I let this happen? Even though it's never your fault. It's not your fault. You ain't do nothing to make this happen. That is just a sick ass individual who needed their ass beat themselves. And I mean, we don't promote violence, but if you're gonna be fighting people, I mean, you just, I mean, shit. And like I said, her family welcomed her back with open arms and no judgment. I'm pretty sure they was just happy that she had gotten out of this situation and was now safe. So now Audrey is just out here living her best life, minding her own business as the 4th of July holiday is approaching. And in doing all of this, you know, enjoying her life and whatnot, Audrey makes plans to go see the annual fireworks show that happens down by the lake. I was about to say every year, but that's exactly what annually means. Anyway, so she makes plans to go see the fireworks show down by the lake, which is happening the night before the 4th. So July 3rd, the evening of July 3rd. And after the fireworks show, Audrey decided to go hang out downtown because the fireworks don't start until like 9:45, and they usually last about 30 minutes to an hour. So it would have been close to 11 when the fireworks was finished. It's about to be a holiday. Her kids is with family. She don't got so she ain't got to worry about them. Why not go out and have fun, right? So she head to Water Street downtown, and she ended up at a bar called McGillicuddy's where she run into one of her cousins named Christine. So now she in the bar cutting up, having a good time, chit-chatting with her cousin, dancing, having fun, and just enjoying her night out. But unfortunately though, her night out at the bar would be the last time that Audrey would be seen alive. So the day of the 4th comes, and Audrey's sister goes to their mom and says that she can't get in contact with Audrey. And initially, Carrie is not too worried about it because she knows that Audrey went out last night and she probably stayed over at one of her friend's house or somewhere and is probably still asleep. So she tells this to her daughter, like, look, she probably still asleep. She done went out. She done had a good time. She probably hung over. I don't know. But she'll more than likely call you back when she wake up. But as the day is going by and festivities are happening, nobody is talking to Audrey. And Audrey has not got in contact with nobody. And this is very unusual because they family stay calling and stay texting each other. They're a very close-knit family. So somebody is going to hear from somebody. Like there's not a day goes by where everybody ain't in contact with somebody in the family. So it was very unusual that nobody had spoken to Audrey. And even more unusual was the fact that her mom had her oldest daughter and Audrey never called to check on her. And that was unheard of. So with all of that combined, when there was still no word from Audrey by the morning of the 5th, her family decided to go ahead and file a missing persons report. And once she found out that Audrey was missing, the cousin that she had seen at the bar that night came forward. And she said that on the night of Audrey's disappearance, she did run into Audrey at the bar, like I told y'all, and they was cutting up, drinking, dancing, having a good old time. And at some point, Sammy showed up. And I don't know, it wasn't clear to me if Sammy and Audrey went to the bar together or if it just so happened that they went to the same bar. Because this could have been a place that they both like to frequent, you know, and then they just ended up there on the night of, you know, the 3rd going into the 4th. At the same time. I don't know how that happened, but nonetheless, Sammy showed up while Christine and Audrey was dancing together, and they dancing, kikiing, and then out of nowhere, all of a sudden, Sammy sucker punches Christine in the face, seemingly for no reason. But as an argument and a scuffle ensued, it was pretty clear that Sammy thought Christine was a guy that Audrey was dancing with just based off of her attire and appearance. And because he thought that it was a guy dancing with Audrey, he got jealous and just sucker punched Christine, not knowing that it was actually her freaking cousin and a woman at that. So security sees this, they break up the fight, and then they escort Sammy and Christine out of the bar. And Christine said that when she and Sammy were escorted out of the bar, Audrey decided to stay because she didn't want his actions to ruin her night. So she was going to keep having fun. She was going to keep doing her. And Christine ended up getting in the car and then just going home. So based off of what Christine said, they now want to go talk to Sammy. When they talk to him, his story pretty much lines up with everything that Christine said. He admits to getting jealous and having an altercation with Christine, but he said that once he got kicked out of the bar, he hung around for a little while, pacing back and forth outside, but he eventually just left and went home. And he said that his auntie can verify the fact that he did in fact come home and go to sleep. So naturally, the next step, go talk to the auntie. And when they talk to her, she once again corroborates Sammy's story. And she pretty much said what he said. He came home in the early morning hours of the 4th. It had to be like around 12:31. And when he got in the house, he went to sleep and he didn't leave again till mid-morning on the 4th. So probably like 10 or 11 a.m. So with all of this information in hand and Audrey being last seen at McGillicuddy's, they go to the bar and grab the video footage from that night. And they do see Audrey in the bar dancing, having a couple drinks. They do see her with her cousin Christine. They see the altercation between Christine and Sammy. And they do see the both of them get escorted out of the bar. And once they got outside, they got the outside surveillance video footage as well. And it once again corroborates Sammy and Christine's story about Christine getting in the car and going home. Well, they don't know if she went home, but she definitely got in the car and left. And then Sammy definitely paced up and down the sidewalk for a little while, and then he left as well. So everything at this point is lining up. Everything that Christine and Sammy said appeared to be true so far. But they keep watching the video because, like Christine said, Audrey ended up staying at the bar once the two of them left. And it turns out that she stayed for another hour, 30 minutes to an hour, and she was seen exiting the bar alone. Nobody left behind her and nobody followed her. You just see her walking down the street. And that was the last known sighting of Audrey. So now the detectives are starting to wonder if maybe something happened to her on her way home. Maybe she was abducted. They just didn't know. But search efforts commenced immediately. They broadcast her picture and her missing posters flyer all over the news and all over the city. And they made it known that the last thing that Audrey was seen wearing was some blue jean shorts, a Green Bay Packers jersey, and some green shoes. And like I said, posters was posted all over the city and search parties commenced immediately. And I mean, the whole city was looking for Audrey because a 28-year-old mother of two, just looking like she having a good time at a bar, leaves the bar and is never seen again. That's scary. Like, what's happening? What is going on right now? And then it doesn't help that not too long before Audrey's disappearance, there was another young lady who was abducted on Water Street. So they scared. Everybody's scared. So as the searches are going on, police are behind the scenes trying to find out as much information as possible as to what happened to Audrey after she is seen leaving the bar. So they ended up following a couple of leads that Sammy's auntie gave them, because when they talked to her, she said that Sammy was seeing another girl, and she also said that Sammy had a best friend who she was a little suspicious about, and she thought that he might have a thing for Audrey. So first they go talk to Sammy's other girlfriend. And when they talked to her, she said that she did see Sammy the night of Audrey's disappearance before he went to the bar. But he dropped her off at home and she was at home for the rest of the night. And her mother corroborated her alibi. She was at home, she was at home for that night. But she also says that she tried to text Sammy a couple of times that night and he wasn't responding to her, which was very weird because anytime she texted or called him, he would respond. If not as soon as he got the message or the call, shortly after. But the fact that he just didn't reply at all struck her as kind of odd. So the detectives make a mental note of this, and then they move to the other lead, which was Larry Brown. And Larry Brown is Sammy's best friend. And when they talk to Larry, he says, unfortunately, he doesn't know anything about Audrey's disappearance. He does not have a thing for her. He would never do that to his friend. And he was at home alone on the night of Audrey's disappearance. And even though his story is a little bit sketchy in the fact that he was at home alone, wasn't nobody there to see you there alone, essentially he don't have an alibi. They really didn't have anything to connect him to the disappearance of Audrey, so he was free to go. Now, throughout the course of the investigation, investigators would get tips and potential sightings of Audrey that they followed up on. However, all of these tips and potential sightings, they pretty much led to nowhere. But about 2 months after Audrey disappeared, detectives would get a tip that was actually useful. So it was August 28th, and detectives get a tip that says this man was at a corner store, and while he was at the corner store, another man was in the corner store talking about he was there when Audrey was abducted and he know what happened to her. And this tipster said that that man's name was Larry Brown. The same Larry Brown who said he ain't know nothing. So of course they're gonna bring Larry back in for questioning, because why would you tell us 2 months ago that you don't know nothing, and then you out here at the damn corner store nonetheless talking about some you know everything. And this time when they get him in the interview room, Larry is singing a whole different tune. He said he know it all. Okay, and now this is the story that he tells detectives. He said that in the early morning hours of the 4th, they had to be around like 3 o'clock in the morning, Sammy was blowing his phone up. He said he ignored the first couple phone calls, but when he kept calling, Larry decided to pick up the phone. And when he finally picked up, Sammy told him that he needed to come over. So when Sammy pulled up to Larry's house, Larry came outside and Sammy told him, hop in the back seat, because there was already somebody in the front seat. So Larry hops in the back seat, and when he get in, he look in the front seat and he realized that somebody is in that front seat and they have been beaten up really badly, to the point where he didn't recognize who was in the front seat until he heard them speak. And once he heard this person's voice, he realized that it was Audrey in the front seat and that Sammy had beaten her up pretty badly. And it was at this point that Sammy told Larry that he was about to help him. And Larry did not refute this. He didn't say, nah, bro, I can't help you. I ain't got nothing. I don't want to be involved. He didn't say that. He said, okay. He said that the only reason he said okay and went along with it was because he was scared at that point. So, he felt like he really just didn't have another choice. So he agrees to help Sammy do whatever it is that Sammy is about to do. And he said that Sammy proceeded to drive from Milwaukee to Yorkville, which is about a 30-minute drive. And he said the whole time that they was in the car, it was just silent. It was really awkward. Once they made it to Yorkville, he said that Sammy pulled up to like a wooded area and then proceeded to drag Audrey out of the car. And she fell initially, but he forced her to her feet. And he said that he stayed near the car. He got out of the car, but he stayed close by the car. And the whole time Audrey was pleading for her life, saying that she has 2 babies who she needs to still take care of, who were 13 and 7 at this point. But Sammy just disregarded all of her pleas and dragged her further into the woods, where Larry said that he didn't see too much happen, but he did say that he saw Larry with his arms extended as if he was holding a gun, and then he heard what sounded like a gunshot. And Sammy proceeded to come back out of the woods, but Audrey did not. And they both hopped in the car and drove the 30 minutes back to Milwaukee in silence. And he said that the next day he helped Sammy clean blood from the car. But at this point, detectives are a little bit skeptical of Larry's story, because they trying to figure out, why would Sammy go get Larry and essentially create a witness that he didn't have to have? Larry didn't help do nothing. He was just there, pretty much, according to Larry's story. So they just didn't see why the hell Sammy would create that witness that he didn't have to have. But despite the fact that they're a little bit skeptical, they do have to look into this. And so they asked Larry, is he willing to help them find Audrey's body? And he agrees. He essentially leads them to the wooded area where he said that all of this took place. And the detectives are searching and they searching and they searching. They search for about 30 minutes and they like, okay, it's looking like homeboy was lying to us once again. But as they were about to call off the search, one of the detectives saw a Green Bay Packers jersey and some blue jean shorts. And he already pretty much knew, just based off of the description of what Audrey was last seen in, that these were more than likely going to be those items. But as he looked closer at the items of clothing, he also noticed skeletal remains. And so it was looking like they had just found Audrey's body. And DNA does confirm that these skeletal remains do belong to Audrey.
Breaking news out of Racine County. The remains of a woman found yesterday have now been identified as Audrey Scott, a Milwaukee woman who had been missing since July 4th. Police say the case is being investigated as a homicide, and there are several persons of interest now in custody.
Larry just might be telling the truth, but they also had to consider the fact that maybe Larry was the one who did it and he's just trying to say that Sammy did it. But if what Larry is saying is true, they still need more to put Sammy in this area. And at this point, Sammy has an alibi. Remember, his auntie said that he went home, he slept, he left mid-morning. But again, if what Larry is saying is true, that what she's saying can't be true. Those two things cannot be true at the same time. So what they do is they go back to Sammy's auntie and they pretty much tell her, like, look, we found what we believe to be the skeletal remains of Audrey, and you telling us that your nephew was at this house around the time where she disappeared, but we have sources telling us that he was not. So what you got to say about it? And she essentially says that she lied, but she just didn't want to believe that her nephew could be involved with the disappearance of Audrey. So she told them that he came home and went to sleep. But in actuality, he came home around the time she said he came home. However, he did not go to sleep. He actually asked to borrow her car, which was not unusual. Sammy borrowed her car all the time. But what was unusual was the fact that he returned the car to her cleaned. And he had never cleaned her car before. He's borrowed this car numerous times, but clean it, he had never done. And so that corroborated Larry's story about him helping Sammy clean the car. So with all this information, they were able to arrest Sammy and charge him with the murder of Audrey Scott, even though they didn't find the weapon or have any shell casings. Now, after Sammy's arrest, this is when the family found out about Sammy's past. Because prior to, they didn't really know much about Sammy's past. And it turns out that back on September 19th, 2007, when Sammy was just 17 or 18 years old, him and one of his friends, Terrence Fleetwood, decided that they was going to commit a robbery. And they attempted to rob a man named Douglas Mitchell. And in the course of this robbery, Douglas was shot, I think, 8 times, and he ended up passing away from his injuries. And Sammy ended up being arrested for this. And I don't know what happened to Terrence. I don't know if Terrence was arrested too. But when Sammy was arrested, he admitted to the robbery and he said that he did shoot Douglas, but he only shot him 1 time. But at some point, I think it was pre-trial, he redacted his statement. He said he didn't shoot nobody. And at this point in Sammy's life, he was a seemingly good kid, you know, prior to the robbery, who just happened to get mixed up with the wrong people. And because of this, when the judge was sentencing him for the robbery and the murder, he was very lenient. And he is quoted as saying, "I don't see how you're involved in this. You're a high school graduate. You're a good student. You tested well. No priors. There's nothing in this that would indicate that you should be here, but you are." And with that, he sentenced Sammy to 8 years in prison with 8 years extended supervision. 8 years for a homicide is insane. But nonetheless, he was released in May 2016 after serving his 8 years in prison, just in time to send Audrey a happy Mother's Day post on Facebook message. And then in March 2017, he was sent back to jail for 30 days for fighting with someone who broke into his house. So I guess that was a violation of his extended suspension. Like on the outside, you can't get into no fights, even if somebody is robbing you. Anyways, he ended up getting out on May 22nd, 2017. But at the point where he got locked up for 30 days, him and Audrey was already in a relationship. But I wonder if she had broken it off with him by then, because it says spring of 2017. And you know, spring, May to March to May, that's spring. But anyways, nonetheless, when the family found out about his prior rap sheet about him being convicted for homicide and only getting sentenced to 8 years, they were pissed. They were rightfully pissed, because why is this man out of jail? Why did this man only get 8 years for killing somebody during an armed robbery? Anyways, He ended up being found guilty of the murder of Audrey, and then he actually caught a gun charge as well for being a felon in the possession of a firearm. And he ended up being sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole plus 5 years. And I'm guessing that the 5 years was for the gun charge. And he actually tried to appeal the gun charge because they never found the murder weapon. So his lawyers was pretty much saying, like, how can y'all charge him with being a felon with a gun when y'all never found the gun and there's no proof that he ever had it, right? But the circumstantial evidence in the murder case says that he had the gun, so the appeal was denied. But why is you trying to appeal a 5-year sentence? You got life without parole anyway. You ain't getting out of jail, boo. And the craziest thing about it is that Larry said that he asked him why he had to kill Audrey, and Sammy's response was he didn't want to go back to prison. Well, now look at you, sir. You didn't cover all your bases, and your man was out at the corner store chit-chatting and talking and telling all your business. So I'm glad that Sammy picked up Larry, because had Sammy never picked up Larry, Larry wouldn't have been able to be at the corner store chit-chatting and running his mouth. So, and Audrey may have never been found, you know? So thank God he was dumb enough to bring a witness. But yeah, y'all, that is all I have for today's case. Thank you all so very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. She was even the one who, what she do? And if I'm not mistaken, she attended and I think even graduated from North Division High School in Milwaukee. And one of the goals that Audrey had set for herself was to one day open up a group home that catered to adolescent women, girls. And one of the goals that Audrey had set for herself was to one day open up a group home so that she was, when she notices that she received a Facebook message from an old high school classmate named Sammy Miller. As the 4th of July is coming, as the 4th of July, girl, shut up. Child. In doing all of this, you know, enjoying her life and whatnot, Audrey makes plans to go see the fireworks show. What? So she ends up downtown on Water Street at a club. Nope, at a bar. And she ends up at a bar called McGillicuddy's, where she runs into And she ended up at a bar called McGillicuddy's, where she runs into one of her cousins, Christy. What is her name? Oh my gosh. Is it Christian? Because they call her Christina. It's not her name. And when they talk to him, he pretty much, damn. And she pretty much just said that he did come home in the early morning hours. And this time, when they get him in the interview room, I was about to say Sammy. This ain't Sammy. And he said that in the early morning, why I keep doing that? Early morning hours. Damn. And when he finally answered the phone, Sammy told him that he needed to come over. So he pulled up to Reggie's. Who the fuck is Reggie, bro? Okay. But he said the only reason that he said okay was because he was scared of Larry. No, he is Larry.